Now and forever, we bring IT to life.
Please stand by. We're about to begin. Good day, everyone, and welcome to the BMC Connect with BSA, upgrading to BSA 8.7 call. Today's call is being recorded, and at this time, I would like to turn the conference over to Mr. Nyante. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for joining our Connect with BSA webinar. Today we'll be talking about the BSA 8.7 release. My name is Nyante. I'm a Senior Support Analyst with the BSA product team. Our other presenters today will be Neil Karani, our Senior Product Manager, Jay Yi, our Consulting Services Architect, and John O'Toole, a Lead Support Analyst. So our agenda for today's call will cover why upgrade to BSA 8.7, how to engage with our professional services team, an overview of BMC's Amigo program, and then we'll have some time for question and answers, and then we'll have a brief wrap-up at the end. So at this time, I'll turn things over to you, Neil.
Newton, thanks a lot. First of all, thanks for joining this call. I'm very excited for today's webinar. Newton, if you can go to the next slide. One more slide, please. There are many reasons, as you can see, why customers should consider upgrading to 8.7 and why it's a very appealing proposition. The three things that jumps out to me that I want to point out to this audience. First and foremost, we as an organization are systematically focusing on product quality from past 3 years plus. So now that effort is paying dividend. Apart from that, another thing we are doing is improving internal processes, how we develop the software and how we go about testing. That's number two. And number three, what we are trying to do internally is trying to find every opportunity we can to simplify product install and usage. So those are the three good reasons that also makes 8.7 special, where we have continued to basically try additional things on those three areas. Next slide, please. Just to kind of give some perspective, BSA is in market from last 4 months. We released this in September last year. Right now, within the 4 months of its being in the market, we have started seeing close to 25% adoption. So for a release of the nature of BSA, 25% adoption in first 4 months is considered very significant. And we have a large number of customers who are in the pipeline who are trying to consider BSA 8.7. So that's a very good reason that if you guys are looking for a particular release, 8.7 would be a good release to consider. Next slide, please. Another metric that is worth mentioning at this point is once release goes in GA, meaning it's available to like a general market, how it's basically faring in terms of number of issues that are getting reported as well as defects that are getting reported. If you look at, there are two graphs you see on the screen. The green line that you see is specifically for 8.7. Compared to all the past releases we have done, 8.7 is doing kind of far better compared to the previous releases in terms of issues that are getting reported as well as number of defects that are getting reported. This is yet another indicator that things that we have done over past 3 years and specifically things we have done with 8.7 makes 8.7 very stable and very reliable release. Next slide, please. We already talked about 8.7, 25% adoption of the release. This particular graph that you guys are seeing, and specifically I will focus on FY16 Q3 and Q4. Those are the only 2 quarters which materially matter for 8.7 release. what you see in terms of numbers there is, you see on FY16 Q3 with the green bar 91 and FY16 Q4 with the green bar 68. Those are the number of unique customers who have interacted with BMC asking for help or some issues they had with the product around 8.7. So this is yet another indicator that customers are serious around 8.7. The peers that generally you interact with are considering 8.7. So that's yet another metrics why someone should consider 8.7. Next slide, please. I already stated that since last 3 years, there is a very heavy focus on improving quality. And typically, we want to basically capture different metrics that showcase the progress, how we are doing when we are focusing on quality. So if you really look at starting from FY13, it's been a long journey for BSA, but we are making constant stride towards improving customer satisfaction index. And idea is that, as of FY16, this is, fairly high, and we will continue investing in quality and around ease of use to keep the CXI even climbing higher. Next slide, please. So we just completed talking about key metrics, what we have seen with BSA 8.7 and in general, our journey in past 3 years. Now let me talk about how we have improved the quality of the product, what exactly are the things we have done internally to improve the quality or take it to the next level. The first and the foremost, we have introduced very robust DevOps process, and specifically I would like to talk about continuous integration and continuous delivery. Apart from that, we have invested heavily in automation-based testing. I'll go into details there. Apart from that, we have introduced new processes, new types of validations that brings to light some of the issues or defects that otherwise will take long time to figure out. That's that. Apart from that, we do the large scale testing to ensure that BSA can perform at scale, because we have many customers who are running large BSA deployments. Apart from that, we also have internal organization that is responsible for certifying BMC products on quality certification. That includes penetration testing, application security, different quality metrics that every BMC product has to certify against. So this brings additional set of criteria and details that we try to comply with, that also improves the quality. Next slide, please. Let's talk about continuous integration and continuous delivery. The key point that I want to stress is that BSA R&D team leverages BSA itself to create and set up different environments for all different forms of testing and to cover the breadth and depth of platforms that we typically would like to cover as part of the testing exercise. Apart from that, we run daily regression runs. On bi-weekly basis, we run different scale testing. And on continuous delivery side, we ensure that green builds for BSA are available in an interval less than 6 hours to the dev teams as well as the test teams, so that they are able to do the unit testing as well as QA are able to do individual testing as well as, subsystem level integration testing. Apart from that, we make sure that there is a stringent code review done upfront while code is getting developed. It's been reviewed by the peers and the architects, and we make sure that we identify any opportunity where we may have design defects, something that can be done better. All those gates are put in place, and this results into further improvements into quality. So that's our BSA continuous integration and continuous delivery. Next slide, please. As I talked about, we use BSA to set up and create environments for all different forms of testing. One of the testing we do is automated testing. First and foremost, we have a large set of test cases, typically that we run as part of automation testing. There are 14,000 test cases that we go through. Apart from just running the test cases, we also try to make sure that we have environment where we can scale up to 15,000 servers and perform like testing on this large setup to ensure that BSA can scale, jobs are performing at this scale, and we look for any opportunity to see any performance degradation and then identify fixes to address those. Apart from just the testing itself, on the next slide, I'll talk about real-world customer scenario. But first and foremost, as we do automation testing, we do find different gaps in our test coverage. We also find defects. An idea is that we want to continuously incorporate this information back into our test case design, development, and also make sure that we are capable of identifying as early and as many defects we can find, so that when we ship the release, it is of high quality. Next slide, please. So as we talked about real-world test environments, as we do large-scale testing, as we do different forms of testing, it is very critical that we are able to mimic how our customers are using the products. So what we typically do, we basically use some of the customer databases that we have in-house internally. And what we do, basically, we try to mimic customer scenario by having multiple app servers, having variety of proxy setups, repeaters, all the complexities we see in our customer environments, and then we basically run our standard set of test cases. And this way we are able to test against the real world scenarios and identify any anomalies that we otherwise will not be able to capture if we don't have these kind of environments. So this is a huge investment of resources and time that we have done, and this brings our quality to the next level. Next slide, please. As I talked about, the way we have improved quality is doing different forms of testing, different additional process we have introduced. Starting with 8.7, what we have done different is that we have introduced the concept of design partnerships for the key features that made it to 8.7. We work closely with customers, so that was net new process. Apart from that, we introduced a concept of what we call bug hunt. So idea of bug hunt is that we take the subject matter experts that are available internally and basically make them test the product in an ad hoc manner and identify any regressions that can be found, to make sure that when we do the next release, we understand any regressions and identify those regressions to make sure that we are fixing those regressions before we ship the product. Apart from that, we do internal user review test. One thing that we have done differently starting with 8.7 is that we started having customers also participate in person, so they get to see firsthand how we are doing testing, and they get to basically see all the pluses and minuses of the product itself along with others who are participating. We take this feedback very seriously. We try to incorporate feedback, defects that are found. Apart from all these processes, we do conduct beta. We had a very kind of active beta for 8.7, and we got a lot of good feedback from beta. Apart from all this, as and when we get opportunity to do any fixes, we try to do service packs patches on releases. Just to give an example, on 8.7, right now we have patch 2 that is available, and that was based on certain feedback from the customers who adopted 8.7. So we made sure that any learnings we got, we have incorporated back into the product. Next slide, please. Another area that we have focused our effort was large-scale performance testing. So as we do large-scale performance testing, we're going to find bottleneck in terms of application. So what we have done, we have run those tests, identify areas where improvements can be done, specifically the key areas where our customers use product heavily, the compliance, the patch, the Analyst scripts, and specifically around ETL. We have identified improvement opportunities, and we have made sure that these jobs can perform at scale and can provide the better performance compared to the past releases. I'll not read the numbers, but these are the actual performance improvements that we were able to get with 8.7 release. Next slide, please. As customer adopt our releases and as customer use our product for variety of use cases, the BSA database is going to grow larger in size. So it becomes very critical that we make sure that there are enough hooks that we provide to maintain the database in a healthy state. Specifically with H7, we have made sure that cleanup runs faster for some of the critical modules of compliance, patch, NSH, deploy. Apart from that, historically we have seen failures and that was basically halting complete cleanup activity. What we have done, we have made cleanup more resilient, so failure in one module does not prevent other module cleanup to go on. So, that's a big improvement. Apart from that, we have also provided control to the user, so user can decide when they want to schedule the cleanup and how long they want to schedule the cleanup for. And all these kind of improvements in cleanup is resulting in ton of improvements on overall performance of BSA as well as quality of BSA. Next slide, please. One thing we have started putting more stress starting with release H7 is that we want to officially certify BSA for longevity testing. An idea is that we did perform longevity testing as we do with every release, but on 8.7 specifically, as we perform longevity testing, we looked for any resource leaks that we can find. And good news there is that as we ran this longevity test, for long period of time for multiple jobs, we ensure that we look for any resource leaks and we couldn't find any. So this is really good news that BSA can sustain for a long period of time and we are not seeing any resource leaks. So this is yet another seal of quality that we can suggest along with BSA release H7. Next slide, please. We just talked about internal quality improvements. As I stated, there were three areas. One was internal quality improvements. Other one was ease of use. Specifically on ease of use, we wanted to make product very simple to set up and use. All the things you see on slide are the things that basically makes BSA simpler compared to the past releases. So automation portal, which basically shields all the complexity from the user. We have simplified install and upgrade. We have provided rapid deployment stack. So BSA now is available in the appliance form. We have introduced concept of quick start. I'll cover some of the details in next few slides. Next slide, please. Specifically, the BladeLogic portal, this was net new thing we have added starting with 8.5 and specifically with 8.7, the version 2.0 is available. An idea is that this portal is designed for the less skilled operators who don't want to deal with the complexity of the rich RCP console. And this is persona designed product, a web-based interface, and it can do things where a patch admin can run the pre-created patch analysis and deploy jobs. The same thing, compliance team can run the compliance jobs. As same thing for provisioning, IT operations can run scripts and the deploy jobs, and the server team can do any additional custom actions they wanted to do. So this is a very simple user interface. It is kind of, very simple to use as well. Next slide, please. As I said, the focus on the next set of topics is going to be around how we have made products simple to set up and use. In terms of simple to set up, we have basically simplified install and upgrade experience. Prior to 8.6, product was very complex to install, configure, and upgrade. 8.6, we made the first progress, and in 8.7, we continue to invest in this area. Now, technically, with 8.7 and 8.6, you guys can go to EPD, download the installer bundle, and almost it's a one-click. You do basically follow the steps from the installer perspective, and by default, a BSA app server with all the necessary things gets created. And from there, you can add additional servers. You can do a lot of other things. So this is a great simplified way of basically installing the product. Next slide, please. On the upgrade front, there were many challenges. The biggest challenge we have seen, the reliability of the upgrade, the database migration, the complexity around database migration. So what we have done, we have tried to take away some of those complexity. In 8.6, 8.7, we continue to invest. And apart from that, there is a lot of content that gets pre-installed. We also provide visibility of the upgrade throughout the process. Another thing, when customer goes to EPD and tries to look for the installer for the product, we have made a great progress. Earlier, we used to have 84 different things that customer can see on EPD. Now it's simplified to, very few things. There are around 4 or 5 things that are available that customer can download. So this makes very simple. And also, idea is that we will continue investing this area and make not only upgrade, but any post activities customer has to do after upgrade also simpler. So this is a great area of focus that we continue to invest, and 8.7 is no exception there. Next slide, please. As we have made product simple to set up and install, one area was that many times customer run into the issues and they don't understand if BSA is behaving well. So what we have done starting with 8.6, we have introduced concept of health dashboard that continues to stay in the product, and in 8.7 it has basically become the integrated into the product, and this basically dashboard provides visibility into the overall BSA application components and also provides recommendations if components are configured properly, and anything customer can basically take from recommendations to improve the way BSA application is configured. So this is a great place to come and understand how well BSA application is configured and where are the issues that needs attention. Next slide, please. Specifically in 8.7, we have made a couple of key changes around the health dashboard. First thing, for any incorrect configurations that were seen in the health dashboard, now we send proactive messages to the BL admin, and then basically they at least have a view of that without going into the dashboard. Apart from that, we have introduced this concept of product usage tracking through the health dashboard. This basically gives a kind of bird's eye view of how Blade is used, which license are getting consumed, and there is a way to export the license usage details so that customer understand where are they using BSA and how they are using BSA. Next slide, please. One of the challenge that IT operations teams typically get from the business is to showcase the value they are bringing to the organization. So what we have done, starting with 8.6, we have introduced concept of dashboard. This continues to stay in the product with 8.7. An idea is that different activities that customers use BSA for, we help them quantify the value of BSA by comparing if customer were doing the same things before using other tools or manually, how long it used to take, and based on the different default parameters, one can understand the net savings both in hours and the dollars that they are able to get from using BSA as a product. So this is something that that is very significant for a lot of users going forward. Next slide, please. The quick start page that you see on this screen, the reason we introduced quick start page in the product was to basically help the new users who are going to get going with BSA. Typically BSA has a kind of a long learning curve, so we wanted to simplify the learning curve for the new users. Apart from introducing rapid deployment stack or appliance, we also wanted to basically have a page where a new user can come understand what all activities can be done using BSA, and based on the task they want to perform, they can basically start using this page as a starting page for different things. So this way they can get started and start learning the product quickly. Next slide, please. Apart from making products simple to use, on variety of fronts, what we have seen, many customers have different application dev teams that are using open source tools. A lot of popular open source tool out there, Chef, Puppet being, two common ones that we have seen. What we wanted to do is basically investment that app dev team has done in these tools. We wanted operations teams to basically benefit from that investment and leverage that investment and still have the control of that that investment, whereby which when these configurations are deployed on the production servers, operations team have full control over it. So idea is that we take these modules and recipes that are developed by the app dev team using these tools. BSA can wrap around these modules and recipe and still exercise the control in terms of role-based access control, as well as decide when to deploy some of the applications and the configurations that they want to deploy. Additionally, customers can choose to run additional jobs if they want to run on top of them to further customize the application for operations readiness perspective. So this is a great way to basically bring application dev teams and operations team work closely together to reduce time it takes to get the new release into the operations environment. Next slide, please. As I stated, there are variety of areas we have invested. One area, because of the industry we are in, we support server operating systems, hypervisors, things on those lines. We continue to invest in this area, and we make sure that the key platform areas that vendors are releasing, we are able to keep up with them. So as you can see from release over release, our coverage continues to improve. Specifically in 8.7, we have introduced support for new hypervisors, new operating systems, things on those lines. Next slide, please. One of the key area where our customers use BSA is regulatory and security compliance. Starting with 8.7, we introduced lot newer content as well as updated the existing content. One specific thing I want to point out to the audience is that not only we provided newer CIS content, what we started doing with 8.7, we took our content and basically went to the CIS benchmark organization itself, and we basically applied for certification, whereby which they took our content, they ran through the testing, and they gave us a seal of approval as a certification, saying that the way the BSA does evaluation and compliance with some of the benchmark requirements, they are done appropriately, and we are basically CIS certified at this point for 5 policies that we have shipped in 8.7. So that's, external validation we have received for our, kind of really critical out-of-the-box security and regulatory compliance. Next slide. We talked about variety of aspects. I just want to basically end at least my piece of presentation by identify a couple of areas which I think are really critical for customers like you to consider if you are going to adopt 8.7. We know that vulnerabilities are out there, and operations team are required to fix them at a faster pace. With that problem in mind, we have introduced this concept of security operations collaboration. We call it SecOps. An idea is that customers can take the feed from their vulnerability scanning tool, and then they can leverage the power of BladeLogic to understand which servers have those vulnerabilities and actually apply patches to fix those vulnerabilities all through a single process, thus by bringing down time it takes to fix the vulnerabilities. That's a big one. Apart from that, customers needs to be proactive, comply with regulatory and security norms in the industry they are working. So compliance is big things. We introduced concept of Red Hat container compliance through escape process. Apart from that, we made our compliance simple to use. We have made series of announcements. The next 2 slides goes little detail. Next slide, please. I already talked about SecOps. Idea is that we take industry leading vulnerability scanning tool, scan output as an input. We can use that information, and then basically based on the servers that are managed by BSA, we give you enough information so that you can remediate vulnerabilities for the managed servers through BSA, and this way you can bring down time it takes to remediate vulnerabilities. So this is kind of a step in the right direction. If companies are security focused, and they need to basically put their act together to address security concerns. So that's SecOps. Next slide, please. A lot of companies just don't want to just be satisfied with fixing vulnerabilities. They want to basically be step ahead in the game. So they want to be in the business of proactive compliance. And idea is that once they harden the servers, chances of those vulnerabilities affecting those servers goes down. And the way customers can do that is by leveraging the BSA compliance capability. So what we have done in 8.7, invested heavily and made sure that BSA compliance engine is simple to use and customers can get far greater value, and basically performance-wise also it performs far better. So those are the kind of key changes which makes BSA 8.7 special compared to the past releases as well. Next slide, please. At this point, I will hand over to Newton or Jay, and the idea is that he will cover through services, how customers can leverage BMC services to upgrade to 8.7.
Hi, everybody. This is Jay. Oh, Newton?
Yeah, I was going to say we'll pass over to you, Jay.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Jay Yee. I represent now the Center of Excellence for DCA Cloud Products, and I just wanted to share with you a service offering for upgrade. So next slide, Newton. Yeah, so we do have a standard offering, a service package, consulting services package called the Server Automation Upgrade. And the qualification for that is that we're taking you to the next version. So this would be from 8.6 to 8.7 or 8.7. And so what we do is we actually assist you in the functional deployment of the technology, which is of one instance, and we can multiply that and the levels of effort across economy of scale if you have multiple environments. But the goal is to get you guys a fully functional, upgraded environment quickly. And so what we try to do is we try to leverage our best practices to deploy production-ready upgraded architecture, as well as leveraging building the foundation for you guys to leverage the new capabilities that you guys are introduced in the upgrade. So it's not just about upgrading, but it's about getting you guys inducted into adopting the first step into adopting the new capabilities that are introduced in the new product. Next slide. So in our project implementation phases, we try to follow a very standardized methodology from our professional services where we try to define what we're after, and it's the upgrading of the software, right? But we also try to define a rollback strategy as well as providing the ability for you guys to do business continuity. A lot of your BladeLogic systems handle jobs and work that's production quality, number one. Number two, it has an impact to the business. So we always try to have a business continuity strategy, and we provide a workshop and a solution design and an upgrade plan document after, so that we agree upon what we're going to execute next. And in the execution, what we did was to, in our standard offering, is to not do as much documentation as our implementation project, but to actually upgrade the software, ensure that you've returned back to functional and operating levels that you guys are normally used to, and not in a compensated state. The other thing is we all know the big challenge in upgrading BladeLogic is not the application server, but it's going out and ensuring that all of our agents get upgraded. So while we would not, while we wouldn't do this in the standard offering package, which is about 4 to 6 weeks of runtime, we would help you build the upgrade packages, deploy a good subset of them so that you guys are comfortable that you can go out and get 100%. And then the other thing is we always like to validate the functional test plan. We'll help you build that, and then we'll execute that so you can validate that you've restored back to where you were from an operational capability level, and that you guys are able to leverage the new capabilities that are introduced, that all the great new tools and capabilities that Neil introduced before. Next slide, please. So our typical timeline, as I stated before, is between 4 to 6 calendar weeks. And I know sometimes that means that can stretch out because of production change controls and validation efforts. But what we try to do in that time also is do on-site and remote delivery work. And so it can be delivered fully remote, fully on-site, or a hybrid model. And it will typically consist of a project manager, an architect part-time to help you define and design, as well as handle some unknown issues if we face them, and as well as to validate the solution and the upgrade plan, and then the consultant who will execute that as part of your team. Next slide, please. And this is just a marketing slide, but if you guys are interested in upgrading your BladeLogic system and you guys are looking for assistance, you guys could contact your account team, and we'll send one of our architects to sit with you for an hour, or probably remotely, to figure out what are your needs, identify who, when, and the budget and the time frame conversation, so that we can align the upgrade to your the different strategies and your operations requirements to ensure that you guys have a successful upgrade and get all the new benefits from the features. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Newton.
Thank you, Jay. So at this time, we'll turn over to John O'Toole, who's going to speak about the BMC Amigo program.
Hi, thank you, Newton. Hi, everybody. My name is John O'Toole, and I'm a lead TSA with the BMC customer support team. Just wanted to spend a few minutes today to talk to you about the BMC Amigo program. So Amigo stands for Assisted Migration Offering, and the program is designed to assist our customers in planning and preparing for product upgrades. The Amigo program slogan is Success Through Proper Planning, and it's offered to all BMC customers currently subscribed to BMC customer support for a wide variety of BMC products, including BSA and BDSSA, which we're discussing today. Next slide, please. So who is the Amigo program suitable for? The Amigo program is suitable for customers who feel comfortable with creating and executing a BSA upgrade plan themselves and are looking to BMC customer support to provide advice, feedback, and additional collateral around upgrade best practices to help ensure the upgrade is a success. So how does the Amigo process work in practice? Well, there are two distinct phases within the program. The Amigo program process begins with the creation of an Amigo starter ticket. During the starter phase, a few things happen. A kickoff call with BMC support is scheduled to discuss upgrade timelines, upcoming patches and service packs the customer should be aware of, common pitfalls and how to avoid them. A questionnaire will be provided which will provide BMC support with important environment-specific information. And important upgrade-related documentation will be highlighted, including sample upgrade plans. After this call and at this point, the starter ticket is closed and the customer begins work on creating their upgrade plan using the provided documentation and the advice received during the starter phase. Once the upgrade plan is created and ready for review, usually a few weeks before the planned upgrade dates, the second phase of the Amigo process begins, and this is called the Amigo review phase. During this phase, a second support call is created to review the upgrade plan. BMC support will provide feedback on the upgrade plan and also discuss any recent developments which are related to the upgrade, such as recently released hotfixes, etc. The final upgrade timelines are confirmed, and the process for enlisting off-hour support, if needed, is discussed, and the BMC on-call team are made aware of the customer's upgrade dates and the Amigo case details. So just to confirm, the Amigo program is not a substitute for a professional services engagement. As much as we would like to, we wanted the bandwidth to create individual upgrade plans and join WebExes to execute every upgrade like professional services would. However, the goal is to ensure a smooth and successful upgrade with proper planning and coordination between the customer and BMC support, and we've had a lot of success in this area so far. So to start the process, you can submit your Amigo starter ticket, and if you search the BMC knowledge base for the words BSA Amigo, you should find the BSA specific Amigo knowledge article with the number listed on this slide, and doing that will get the process started. Okay, thanks, Newton.
Great. Thank you, John. So we've reached the question and answer phase. So moderator, if you could provide instructions to the participants so they can submit their questions and unmute the lines of any of our additional panelists as well, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask a question, you may do so by pressing star 1 on your telephone keypad. If you are using your speakerphone, please release your mute function to allow your signal to reach our equipment. Also, a voice prompt on your phone line will indicate when your line has been opened. Again, that is star 1 at this time. And your first question will come from caller. Your line is open. Please check your mute button.
Yes, this is Rob Nielsen from Bank of America. I'm heavily involved right now in all of the patching that's done at Bank of America using the native BladeLogic feature. And I was wondering if there's any documentation or anything that may outline what some of the, not necessarily the improvements, but the differences in the patching with 8.7, how it presents results, you know, those kinds of things. And I was wondering if there's any kind of document that's out there, if you could lead me to one that I could have for reference.
Yeah, I believe, we do have some varied documents, so maybe we can follow up and send you some of those. We have, a number of documents available in the BSA community space, which cover some of those issues that you discussed, and also some generic patching best practice documentation as well, which I think some of that may be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
And once again, everyone, that is star 1. Next, we'll hear from.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, your line's open.
Hi, yeah, I'm Jason from ESI. We are trying to implement patching for AIX and HP. I know that those are not the popular, the platform on the BSA patching the function, but is there any the improvement on those areas?
Sorry, so which platforms was that?
AIX and HPUX.
Yep, so I know for AIX there's been some improvements in that area. I don't know if, Neil, if you have any information around HPUX,
Yeah,
or there's plans for that going forward.
Yeah, HPUX, we have not seen much changes, so we do support it for patching. And on AIX specifically, we have introduced support for SUMA. That's a new way of accessing the IBM AIX patches, so that support exists with 8.7. So that's the current support in the product for those two platforms.
Do you have a updated process for pushing out patches from the NIM server?
I have to get back to you in terms of how we do, but typically we interact with SUMA because that's the IBM recommended way of doing patching. But certainly, I'll take your question and revert back to you on that.
Okay.
And once again, that is star 1 to ask a question. And there appear to be no other questions at this time.
Great, thank you. I know we do have a number of questions in the chat here. There's one here, I see, from Jason, follow-on question about the BMC Amigo program. So is BMC Amigo program free with a support contract? So to answer that, yes. Any current BSA customer is able to access or engage us as part of the Amigo program. So as John referenced, if you find that knowledge article, it has the detailed information for how to begin that process and engage us. So as part of the follow-up, we can send that URL for folks to access as well. See here. It looks like a number of these other questions in the chat may have been answered already. Again, we'll be supplying after this call a full transcript of all the questions and answers, so any of those missed or if they need follow-up information, we'll provide that as well. Any other questions on the line at this time?
And as a final reminder, ladies and gentlemen, it is star one. We do have a question we'll hear from.
Hi, we use Solaris 10 and we use Live Update for alternate boot environments. Is there any plans to integrate it a little better with Live Update so that you can create an alternate boot environment, patch that environment, activate it, and then reboot correctly instead of having to do pre and post commands, or is it still going to be a manual pre and post command type scenario?
Yeah, Neil.
Yeah, sure. So probably I have to get back to it, but in terms of support for alternate boot environments, so definitely we do support for it. I just have to understand the complexity when you are saying manual post and pre-commands, where are the challenges, and if you have done anything around 8.7 or 8.8, probably I'll get back to you. So definitely I would like to understand the challenges that specifically you have, but we do support alternate boot environments, but I assume that you are referring to the complexities in terms of extra hand handling that you guys have to do to make it work.
Yeah, exactly, because we have to do LU creates and LU activates and stuff like that.
Sure. So I'll definitely circle back to you on that to see if we have made any progress on that specific area, or maybe, have a call with you to understand that better. So as we plan further updates in that area, definitely we want to make sure that we handle your pain points specifically.
Thank you.
So who was that question from, just so we can ensure we get back to you? Or?
Sorry, Brian Gallagher with NGS.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brian.
And next we'll hear from. Caller, your line is open. You may want to check your mute button. And again, please release your mute button. With no response, I would like to remind everyone that is star one to ask a question. And there are no other questions.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, we just have one appear. Caller, your line is open.
Yes, this is Rob Nielsen again from Bank of America. In our AIX space at Bank of America, the way that the users supply security patches is in a format that's not supported by the normal way to install security patches. They're in a different form, and they use a command to install their patches called eManager, EMG as in Greg, R as in Robert, and I was wondering if that's supported in 8.7 or not.
So I'll take that question. This is Neil. So specifically, Rob, that is not supported as of yet, but good to know that request for sure. But yeah, support doesn't exist.
Is there a plan to add that type of support?
We will look into this. We will understand, your specific needs, and definitely we'll consider for future releases. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And there are no questions, sir.
Thank you. So I know we do have a few others here on chat. Maybe, Neil, you can help confirm these as well. It's a question here from Kyle about Solaris 11 support in 8.7. In earlier versions of the product, we supported this through the vendor patch kit, vendor patch content. But now with 8.7, that's natively supported, correct?
No, right now this is part of 8.8 that we are going to ship natively, but that zip kit is still available with 8.7. And if there is anything we can do to make that little simpler, definitely we can have that conversation.
Thanks, Neil. Then one other question here from the chat is about so Linux and its systemd, if we have any plans for natively supporting that as a server object.
So there is a indirect way through what we call extended object for a set of compliance rules that we started supporting in 8.7. We do have a representation of systemd, but it's not, very intuitive, but definitely users can use this and actually do some of the things they really want to do with systemd. So we can have a session and show you where that information is available in the live browse and how they can basically leverage that.
Great, thank you. So one more for you, Neil. So a question about Oracle Linux patch catalog support. So currently, well, a question about if we're going to have support for online Oracle Linux catalogs instead of just offline.
So we are talking about ULN, if I understand the question correctly. Currently, It's part of the future roadmap. It doesn't exist in the product, but definitely that's something we are going to look in our upcoming release.
Thanks, Neil. So do we have any other online questions? I think all of those from the chat have been answered.
There are no phone questions at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, well, thank you, everyone, for joining today. Just as a part of a wrap-up summary, on the slide here, it covers a few ways that you can contact us and also ways you can get more information about the BSA 8.7 release and also any further upgrade questions. The preferred method of communication with BMC is via the BMC communities. You can also reach us through Facebook, Google+, and Twitter via the links there, and then also via our standard technical support channel if you have any specific product technical questions. So this concludes today's call. Again, thank you everyone for joining us today to talk about the 8.7 release. A recording of this webinar will also be available in the BMC community soon, along with all the questions and answers that we provided after the presentation. As participants today, we'll also soon be sending you a brief survey, so we'd appreciate your response and feedback for this webinar and also for future sessions that will be planned. So at this time, Moderator, I think we can end the call. So thank you, everyone.
Now and forever, we bring IT to life.